we just want to find a company that we feel that our involvement can actually help. To me, that's kind of the cheating part, or kind of starting on first base, in that if I say, well, here's this idea, and we're debating whether or not we're going to do it, but this guy, Arjun, I feel if I can do this and this and this, he gets that leg up, he gets to first base, and a lot easier to get home from there. So if we feel we can help you achieve what you're trying to, usually the answer then is yes. One thing that I didn't get, nobody told me when I was in my teens or 20s or 30s, I kind of came across it on my own when I hit 40, is that, what you give off as a person, the vibe you give off is whatever, that's how people are grading you, that's how people are judging you. It's not so much what you're wearing or what you're saying, but kind of your vibe. So, I think it's important that you're aware of that, you walk into a room, you're as an entrepreneur of a startup, starting at your own business, be aware that you're constantly selling yourself. People in their 20s, the millennials, are looking to invest in the public stock market, and I don't know if they're ever coming back. I think more they're going to be looking at making investments in individual companies, individual startups, kind of like the shark, becoming a Shark Tank nation, if you will. So I see, starting out, my first job was in 1995 at Oppenheimer down in the World Financial Center. And back then, the biggest or best thing you could do, it was go work on Wall Street. Now, I think there's a massive shift going on where balance of power is going from East Coast to West Coast, to where Silicon Valley or the startup community, and a lot of people want to call for a bubble because of this. This point is debated often. We're not in a bubble for startups. There's no such thing as a bubble for startups. If you believe Uber at 66 billion is a bubble, it may be, it may not be. That the market will decide that. But if you have a company that can change the way business is done, or that can improve the way business is done, or just make people's lives a little bit better, and I can invest in the seed level, we're both going to be very happy with that investment. So everything you read about, a lack of IPOs, I mark my words, within the next 12 months, I'll go on the record here, you're going to be reading stories about there's too many initial public offerings, the market's getting saturated, it can't support this many IPOs. It's a cycle, the market's cyclical. But I think, so the market will go up, it will go down, interest rates are going to go up or not, we'll find out tomorrow. But the idea that there's funding out there, there's money out there, and we hear this from large institutional investors all the time. There are large pension funds that have a 5% allocation to private equity, of which venture might be 1 or 2% of that. That's increasing. There's a demand for startup businesses. There's a demand for new, disruptive companies out there, and that's not going away. That's not a bubble. That's here to stay. And I believe we're in the very early stages. It's not going well, or you kind of want something that's not working out. It's real easy sometimes to get pissed off and just, but just realize, it's, the business world is small. The investing world is small. And the worst thing you can do is burn a bridge. If someone is, kind of does you wrong, or take the high road and just don't burn the bridge. I say this from experience. I can be, kind of in my younger days. If I felt you crossed me, you would know it, and I would know that you knew it, and I'd go home feeling better. But kind of the best way to one-up somebody in that position, if you feel that someone did you wrong, is to take the high road. And then maybe 2 years, 3 years down the road, there's more business there. And now, I didn't win by yelling at him or showing him who's boss. I won by coming back a few years later and now getting business from you. So then I really won. I'm going to answer this truthfully, but I don't know that this applies to every investor out there, but I know for me, it has to be real. You can't be me, or I can't be you. I can't even do that, and I can't wear those shoes. So kind of the people who try to come in and say like, well, people like this look, so, and they like when you act this way or you present yourself this way, or they want you to be overly confident, which comes off as cocky. If that's you, do it because that's you.
Yeah.
But if you're fake, it's just it's tough to really buy into your story. And I think kind of you can apply that just to life in general. But as a founder, when you're looking for a partner to come on, you have to be you. And if you isn't good enough for me, or if you and I aren't a match, so be it. But at least you are being yourself versus trying to come off as something you're not. So coming correct or coming with your stuff together is really knowing your product, knowing your ask, and then really just being you. And again, if that's suit and tie, wear it. If it's shorts and a t-shirt, wear it. Like you need to be yourself. Because otherwise it's going to create an issue when the true you comes out. And say, wait a second, you were in a suit, now you're in a t-shirt. So it doesn't. So I think that's the mistake people make, is that they see something or they hear something or they think you're supposed to do this. Where I would say, for me especially, you're supposed to be you. And then it may work, it may not, but that's really all you have. A great team that kind of keeps me in line and does the checking, and good analysts on staff that tries to weed out the good companies from the good investments for us. But we look across all different sectors. Ideally, we want to be in early. We've made some later stage investments, and for the most part, they've worked really well. But I enjoy kind of being in ground level and kind of helping with the inevitable hiccups that come. So we're looking at right now, sectors that we're really looking for are ed tech. We just did a partnership with NYU. We like fintech space. We kind of feel we're underexposed to that space and the changing landscape there. But really, we're looking to invest in you guys. We're looking for the founders. We're looking for the people who, and if I could bottle this, I would. But kind of want to know who's going to have the stick-to-itiveness or the gumption to overcome the obstacles and to be able to come out on the other side of it. So we're kind of making the bet that the founder or the founders or the team is going to be able to overcome. And really, it's such a great feeling when you come out on the other side and you realize that the company's going to make it. It's been there. It's fun. My original investment through 500 was a company called Open Sponsorship. Ishveen was the founder of the company. I met Ishveen in New York. I knew her husband through a friend of mine. I think they may have been cousins. So that's how I was introduced to Ishveen, and kind of really liked her vibe. I got what she was doing with Open Sponsorship, which is kind of an online marketplace for advertisers to find athletes. And she's doing well. So that was my first foray into it, and as I was helping Ishveen and kind of connecting her with another portfolio company, a private jet service called Wheels Up that uses a lot of athletes in their marketing. She said, why don't you come out to 500, meet Arjun, he's a great guy, and we'll introduce you to some of the companies. So I did that earlier this year, and I met some really great people, some cool. Just last week, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Allbirds, their new shoes, here, San Francisco-based company. But we're initial investors in the company. Lair Hippo led the round out of New York. Great team of investors involved, and I brought one of the founders. I do a show on Fox twice a week on Fox Business. So we brought Joey, one of the founders of Allbirds, on Fox Business Thursday morning, and he was on with Maria Bartiromo, who hosts the show, and spoke for about 6 minutes about Allbirds and why they're the most comfortable shoe ever. And he loved it. When we left, I said, how did that work out? And he took his phone out, and it was about 9:15 in the morning, and he said, look at this, and he had 22,000 hits to the site, and they had sold 996 pairs of shoes at that point. So it was the biggest day in history. It's funny because I think certain companies go on television and they do it incorrectly, they do it wrong, they don't get a lot of traction or follow-on from it, whereas other companies come on, if you're familiar with Peloton bike, you know, the bike in your house, you can like spin like SoulCycle.
Oh yeah, right.
So Peloton came on our show, but at the same time they bought airtime to run their ads around their segment. So I know that worked out great for them. How do you do it? You know, some people come on with a PR person, but truthfully, it doesn't get the same traction than if you know someone. So you know, companies like Juice Press, like Allbirds, like Wheels Up, which is another one of our portfolio companies. You know, when the time, I talk to a lot of the companies about it, but when the time's right, you know, I'm more than happy to bring them on, you know, get them comfortable with the group, with the producers, with the hosts. 6 years ago, a good friend of mine who had just sold his business to Warren Buffett walked into my office and said, meet Tex, was Mark Teixeira, who was the first baseman for the Yankees. He said, me and Tex are investing in a juice company. We want you to be the third partner. I said, okay, I would have invested in anything at that point. You know, got Warren Buffett and first baseman for the Yankees. So first kind of angel investment was Juice Press. And we invested at a $2 million valuation. It's a small juice company based out of New York, but now going nationwide. We invested at $2 million. Last raise was at $110 million, and you know, kind of got me hooked. So from there, it started small fund that went on for a couple of years, and then we launched our fund last year, Rosecliff Ventures, and we have about 34 companies in the portfolio now. And this is now investing in startups is what takes up 95% of my working day. Meeting with companies, investing in companies, helping companies grow or overcome obstacles that they face. So I love it. I've been working for 22 years, and this is the most fun I've ever had.